What the heck is a tariff and do they work? Two questions that are absolutely central that I am going to answer in this video for you. Let's get started. All right, so if you've been following the news, Donald Trump threatened 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and a 10% tariff on China right when he came into office. He postponed those 30 days, but those 30 days are now up and those tariffs are in place. Okay, now you heard a lot of talk about the tariffs, but what actually are they? So let me start with a definition and a little history and a little pop culture fun. All right, so a tariff, I looked this up. Here is the technical definition. A tax on exported or imported goods. So things that we are bringing into the country, things we're importing, a tax on that, or things that we are sending to other countries, a tax on that. It involves trade with other countries. It's as simple as that. Now, we have tariffs on lots of things. You just don't know about them. So there's a 2.5% tariff on passenger cars. There's a 6% tariff on golf shoes. Joe Biden, when he was president, kept $360 billion in tariffs on Chinese goods that Donald Trump had put in place. So these are things that are ongoing, just at not the level that Trump is proposing. So let me go back a little and do a little history. So tariffs have been with us for a really long time. This stat was amazing to me. From 1790 to 1860, 1790 to 1860, to the early days of the Republic, tariffs made up 90% of what the federal government's revenue was. So we would tax, on imports, we would tax, and we would collect that money, and it would go to the Treasury. And that was how we funded 90% of the government. Now, that has changed drastically. So basically, up until World War II, tariffs were a popular thing. They stopped being a popular thing after World War II. So the average tariff on a good that we imported in 1934, 18.4%. In 2007, that was under 2%. So these are things that have been with us. I point to my seminal movie, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Do you remember the scene where the teacher is teaching and everyone's like falling asleep in class, and the girl's drooling and the kids? Okay, what is the teacher talking about in that speech, in that lecture? Tariffs. He's talking about the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act of 1934 that Congress put in place as a way to try to get the country out of the Great Depression. It did not work because it raised tariffs and in fact made the Depression worse, which might have some foreboding going forward. But it's in that movie. If you watch that scene, you will realize that is actually a conversation about tariffs. And here we are. Just shows you Ferris Bueller tells you everything you need to know about life. All right, so let me stop for 1 minute there and say, if you have not subscribed to this channel, I really hope you do so. I am making political videos every single day. I am calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. I am independent, authentic, and transparent. I will always tell you why I think what I think. I will always give you the facts and the backup and the context for what I am saying. I hope you will subscribe. Okay, so let's talk then about sort of the modern conversation on tariffs. Donald Trump is a big tariffs fan. He said, quote, "Tariffs are the greatest thing ever invented." He has called them the most beautiful word in the English dictionary, in the English language. He has also said they are the fourth most beautiful word to think after like God, love, and one other thing. Anyway, so he really likes tariffs. Why does he like them? So he likes them for a few reasons that he thinks they're really effective. Number one, he thinks it encourages people and companies to manufacture their goods in the United States. So obviously, like if I make Polar spring water and I'm going to put a factory outside the country and it's going to be charged a tax to import it into this country, which is going to make the price higher. Well, I'm just going to make it in the United States. Then it's not subject to a tariff, right? And I can offer it for a lower price. People will buy it. I will make more money, right? So that's number one. He thinks that's really, really important. Number two, and this is critical too, he thinks it's a really good bargaining chip when you are in a position like the United States is in. So the United States is obviously a giant importer and exporter. And if we say, you know what, we're going to tax everything that's coming in, it makes it more complicated for a foreign company who is really relying on that. Because the truth is, if we do that, then the price is going to go up in the United States to cover that cost. And then people may buy less of that foreign product that's coming in. The foreign company will lose market share. The things that they depend on, Canada is a gigantic, I think 60, 70% of their economy is driven by things they import into the United States. If people in the United States stop buying those things because the prices are too high, then that's a big problem for Canada, right? And so Trump views it as a way to negotiate, to get leverage, to say to these countries, we're the big dog here. We're the big spender. We're the people who your economy needs. And if we're going to tariff you, then you're going to be in a very bad spot and you're going to be in trouble. It is why, by the way, that when he first threatened the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, both of those countries went out of their way to try to offer Trump something to keep the tariffs from going into effect. In Mexico, they put 10,000 more troops at the U.S. border, U.S.-Mexico border. In Canada, Justin Trudeau, the prime minister, named a fentanyl czar because Trump said too many illegal drugs were coming into the country from Canada. So other countries are incentivized to negotiate. There's no question about it. So those are the two big things. So number one for Trump, tariffs work because it gets more manufacturing done in the United States, keeping costs low, bringing companies into the U.S., and that's good for the U.S. economy. And number two, it's a really powerful negotiating tactic. Now, the criticism of tariffs, and I will say most economists, not all, but most economists are very skeptical about tariffs for this reason. Here's how it works. We impose a tariff on Post-it notes. I think they're actually made in the US, but let's just say they're sitting here. We impose a tariff on a company that imports Post-it notes. The company that imports the notes does not pay the tariff. The American company that brings them in pays the tariff to the U.S. Treasury via the Custom and Border Protection Agency, which collects the tariffs at the 328 ports of entry in this country. Okay, so the tariff is collected and paid by the American company importing the good, okay? And then almost always that cost increase, because now it costs that American company more to bring in the Post-it notes, they put that cost into their price. They raise their price so that they can recoup the cost they had to pay to get the thing into the country. And that, as a result, means we pay more money for lots and lots of things. It amounts to, in many ways, a tax increase. It is why Kamala Harris talked all the time during the 2024 campaign about Donald Trump proposing a national sales tax. What she's saying there is a tariff. People just don't know what tariff means. They should watch this video. They don't know what tariff means, so she calls it a national sales tax. It winds up being the same thing. And most economists believe that's the case. So that's negative number one about tariffs. Negative number two about tariffs is, well, other countries can respond in kind, right? If we put a 10% tariff on all goods coming in from China, well, China can put a 10% tariff on all goods coming in from the United States, everything we're exporting. And that obviously hurts American companies as well, for the same reasons that we think tariffs on things we import hurt foreign companies, makes it, they lose market share, makes it harder for them to make money. Well, the same is true reciprocally, which means you get into a trade war in which maybe no one really wins. So I wanted to find, because there's so much back and forth about this, I wanted to find an independent, nonpartisan analysis of what the 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and the 10% tariff on China could mean for the U.S. economy. And there's the Pete Peterson, very wealthy guy, has done a lot of really great nonpartisan work in the economic space. And his foundation is called the Peterson Institute for International Economics. And earlier last month in February, they did a breakdown of what it would cost on average each U.S. household if there was a 25% tariff on things from Mexico and Canada and a 10% tariff on things being imported from China. And their estimate was it would cost the average U.S. household $1,200 $200 a year. So a tax increase of $1,200 a year. Now, Trump obviously disputes that. He says it's not going to happen. These companies are going to move their manufacturing capacities to the U.S. They're going to capitulate. We're going to benefit. Ultimately, we're going to collect these. It's going to be more money for the federal government. We're going to collect it in revenue. There are arguments to be made. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, clearly believes tariffs work. It's why he was picked by Donald Trump. So there are arguments for and against. I would say, as I said before, the majority of economists will tell you they do not think that tariffs work, that ultimately they wind up punishing the people, will punish the people in the United States as imports are tariffed and then those prices are passed along to the consumer. Look, if Donald Trump keeps at this, if he doesn't make a deal with Canada, Mexico, or China, we are in for a prolonged trade war, and we will see who is right and who is paying more taxes or more money for their goods. And that will be sort of where the rubber meets the road moment for Donald Trump. So that's Tariffs 101 in under 11 minutes. Not terrible. I ask you to do a couple things. Subscribe. I'm trying to explain this world of politics and policy to everybody out there in layman's terms that we can all understand. I'm doing it every single day. Number two, please like this video. If this made sense to you, if this was something that helped you understand, like it so that it gets shared more widely by the algorithm. Same thing, comment on this video for the same reason. More comments, more algorithm. More algorithm, more people see it, more people see it, more people get educated, I hope, and I have more subscribers so I can make more of these videos. It's a virtuous cycle. Last thing, tell your friends about this. If you think this is of value, well, tell your friends, hey, this guy Chris Cillizza is doing interesting stuff. It's nonpartisan. He's calling balls and strikes no matter who's at the plate. That's what I'm doing. I hope you can support me. Take care.